Yo, what's going down, everybody? It is Straight Outta Boston here, aka the King of Boston, and today we have the fifth installment of our MLB season preview podcast. And always, today I'm here with Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
What's up, guys?
And today we are going to be covering the NL Central. So, anyway, we are going to start out with the Cincinnati Reds. Sorry, I stumbled over that for a second. So the Reds had a pretty quiet offseason aside from one big deal. That deal being a three-team trade from which they acquired Shin-Soo Choo and Jason Donald, and they gave up Drew Stubbs and Didi Gregorius being a top shortstop prospect. And they also re-signed Ryan Ludwig and Jonathan Broxton, as well as bringing in key role players like Jack Hanahan, Cesar Torres, Emmanuel Burris, and they did lose Scott Rowland. So, obviously, a team that's trying to build off of their success from last year. They're also going to be moving Aroldis Chapman to the rotation. That's another pretty significant move. But yeah, like I said, trying to build on the success of last year and probably try to repeat, as winning the NL Central like they just did. So, what do you think of their offseason, Ryan?
I definitely think they're probably going to win this NL Central, but the deal with Shin-Soo Choo, I think that's one of their best moves of the offseason. I'm pretty sure Shin-Soo Choo is going to be leadoff hitter for them, right? I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know who was their leadoff last year. Wasn't it Cozart?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, when Shin-Soo Choo hit leadoff for the Indians last year, he did so well with them. So I mean, Shin-Soo Choo, he's been very inconsistent his whole career, but he has a hell of an arm. But moving him to center field, I don't know if he's gonna do well there or not. But I mean, regardless, I think Shin-Soo Choo is gonna be a great, fantastic move for this team, along with keeper Ryan Ludwig, who's been really underappreciated for a while now. I think he's one of the most. I don't know. He's sort of like John Lennon, I guess. He's pretty consistent or whatnot. He's solid. He's solid. So, yeah. I mean, losing Scott Rowland, that's not that bad. But now they have Todd Frazier over at third base, who did really well last season. And then they have the face of the MLB and Joey Votto, who's still a beast.
I love Joey Votto. I think he's probably a top 5 hitter in baseball.
Yep. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There isn't really much to say about this team. They're pretty much going to be the exact same team as they were last year. I think Shin-Soo Choo certainly is an improvement over Drew Stubbs. I don't think anyone can argue with that. And then, getting Jason Donald, getting Jack Hanahan, getting Cesar Torres and Emmanuel Burris kind of shores up their bench a little bit. That's good. I always think that, an MLB team needs a good bench come, September/playoff time. So I really like those few moves. I don't know how they'll replace Scott Rowland, but I'm sure, Rowland wasn't exactly like a star for this team at the point last year, so I don't think it's going to be a huge loss. And I just really like it. I really like this team. It's a deep team, good all-around team, not too many holes. What do you think about moving Aroldis Chapman to the rotation?
I don't like it because last year he was like neck and neck with the best closer in the National League next to Craig Kimbrell. So I don't know. I don't think that if you're a 102 mile per hour fireballer, if you can last 100 plus innings a year as a starter. So I think I'd rather see him as a closer. I mean, if you move him to the bullpen, you still have a really deep rotation with top to bottom Cueto to Mike Leake. So I mean, either way, Aroldis Chapman moving to the rotation is definitely going to help them. But I really don't see why not. You're gonna risk some really long term arm damage possibly with this fireballer. So.
Yeah, I mean, historically, relievers who have been kind of 100-mile-an-hour fireballers who move into the rotation, they've historically done, lost velocity. They haven't been able to develop second and third pitches. I mean, key examples are Jabba Chamberlain and Daniel Bard, two guys who were great relievers who were expected to thrive in starters roles, but neither of them really ever did. And that's a shame because, both of their careers, which started out very well as solid setup men, have kind of gone down the drain. But anyway, I know he was brought on as a starter last year, and the whole plan was they were going to do the Chris Medlin thing and move him from the bullpen into the rotation at about the All-Star break. But I think they're just better off, like you said. They're deep, from Cueto to Leake, and I'm pretty sure what it's going to be: Cueto, Latos. I don't know who their three
Bailey.
is, but yeah,
Homer.
Bailey and Leake, and I don't know if there's someone else in there, but. It's a pretty deep rotation. I think Leake and Bailey are solid. They're certainly inconsistent, but when they're on, and both of which were former top prospects. So that's another case in point where we know those guys have talent and we know that they can pitch. So
Who was the guy from the rotation last year who threw a no hitter? Was it Arroyo?
That's Bailey. Oh yeah, I forgot about Arroyo. Yeah, Arroyo is very solid too, and it's just a case where I don't know if they needed to move Chapman into the rotation. I think, like you said, he was thriving as a closing pitcher. You would have had your closer for the next 10 years, 15 years, really, if you had just kept him there. Maybe waited a year or two, maybe waited until you had a bigger need for it. I mean, we saw a guy like John Smoltz just 10, 15 years ago kind of go back and forth between rotation and starters, so it's not like you couldn't have waited the year or two and waited until you can get another closer, because at this point, I don't know who's going to close for this team. I'm assuming Jonathan Broxton. Yeah, but I mean, he was shaky the last time he in his last few years with LA. So, I mean, I just don't see the need for it. I'm fine with it, really. I think he'll be fine as a starter. I think it's a bit of a risk. It's a high risk, high reward situation, and I just don't think they need to do it. Is my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
All right,
so let's go to our predictions.
Yeah. I'll go first. I have the Reds pretty much tearing through this division. I don't consider this to be an incredibly strong division. I think that the Reds will handle this. They'll win the division. I give them 98 wins, 64 losses. Just pretty much building off of the success that they had last year. I don't have the standings up right now, so I don't know exactly how many games they won last year, but I'm pretty sure it was around 98, if not at 98. So I think they'll be a very similar team. I don't see them getting significantly better or worse. And, 98 wins, winning the division. What about you?
I have the Reds at 95 and 67. I think they're going to win this division as well. I think they're going to win it by a pretty decent margins this year. Again, I love this team top to bottom, especially the starting rotation, which is really deep, especially with Cueto as that anchor. So I think this team is going to do really well this year, just like last year.
All right, so move on to the next team. You want to talk about them?
Yep, the St. Louis Cardinals. So these guys have been postseason pests for a while now. Past couple of years, always making it sort of deep into the postseason. This year they lost Lance Berkman. They lost Kyle Lohse for now. Re-signed Alan Craig. I think that was like a 5-year deal or something like that.
5 years, 30-something million? I don't know. I don't know the exacts. It's a backloaded contract, though. I know that much.
Yeah. And then they signed Chris Carpenter and Rafael Furcal are both out for the year. Signed Roddy Cedeno. Signed Randy Choate, and signed Ty Wigington. So, decent offseason for the Cardinals. What do you think about them?
This is another team that, as we're going to see throughout most of this division, very quiet offseason. They do lose Lance Berkman. I think Texas certainly overpaid for him. Injury-prone first baseman who's probably going to DH for them. And I think that's fine. They were fine without Berkman last year, for parts of the season. I don't consider that to be too big of a loss. They also lost Kyle Lohse. I think they should go ahead and try to re-sign him, especially with Chris Carpenter being out for the year, as we've found out a week or so ago. I think they should really go back to signing Kyle Lohse. I think that's the safest option for Lohse. They could probably get him on a 1-year deal at this point, which, I think that's perfect. I think it's a perfect situation. St. Louis has historically been a place where past their prime, old players go and thrive, just like Kyle Lohse did. And we've seen it with examples on this team of Lance Berkman and Carlos Beltran, two guys that we thought were washed up when they came to St. Louis and have kind of revived their careers. I mean, Berkman was solid last year. Beltran was an all-star. So I think I think the Cardinals should make a run after Lohse. They also re-signed Alan Craig. That's a good situation for them. It's a backloaded contract. I think he's in his late 20s at this point, so very solid hitter. He hit 300 last year, hit 20-plus home runs. Very solid player. I think it's a good signing. Good to keep him around. It looks like he's going to be the long-term replacement for Albert Pujols. Like I said before, they lost Chris Carpenter and Rafael Furcal for the year, so I think maybe they need to make a move and try to acquire a shortstop. We'll see how Pete Kozma does this year. And then, signing Cedeno, Choate, and Wigington, all role players who, like I said, they always have those chances of being guys who have been past their prime but kind of, revitalizing their careers a little bit. Choate's a left-handed specialist. Wigington's had success in the past, and Cedeno's always been a middle infielder who's been very good defensively, struggles with the bat, but I think it's perfect for a bench player who can come in the ninth inning and, sub in for, whoever or whatever. I think he can play third base as well, so that's a good situation for them. A couple extra role players never hurt to have around, and I like what the Cardinals did this offseason. I think that they, if I remember correctly, they struggled towards the beginning of last year, picked it up at the end, ended up getting that second wild card, and I think they can kind of build off of that success and have another solid year this year. I don't see them contesting the Reds for the division crown, but I do believe that they're going to have a solid chance at getting one of those wild card spots. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with you when you say that, all the older players come to this team, they always sort of like revive their career, but I think the rotation, I think overall it's pretty decent, but I definitely agree if they can sign Kyle Loesch, I don't see why you don't sign him at this point,
Yeah,
honestly. So, I mean, I guess Scott Boras is that much of a jerk, but I mean, he wouldn't help them, or he would help them out a lot, I guess. But if you look at the rotation of Wainwright, Westbrook, I don't know how Westbrook is still pitching. Oh my God, I remember him back in the 2007 ALCS, but. And then you have Lance Lynn, Jaime Garcia, who still has a lot of room to grow, and then you have Shelby Miller, who's going to be the fifth starter this year. That's a pretty good rotation in my opinion. So
yeah, I think that if Miller retires or if someone goes down, then that's the perfect opportunity for them to sign Kyle Loesch.
yeah, and then definitely the Rafael Furcal injury that's gonna hurt them a little bit with their depth. I mean now Pete Kozma's gonna be playing shortstop, and I think I'd rather have Furcal at this point. But
Yeah,
I mean this Cardinals team, every single player on this team can play, and they can always fill in whatever spots needed. So. I think this Cardinals team is going to be, they're going to be making the postseason once again. I think that they can definitely somehow come back from 3 runs down versus the Nationals and win.
yeah. I mean, it's just a pest of a team, like you said, the postseason pests, and I see them making another run at the playoffs this year. I think they might take that second wild card spot. I mentioned last episode. I think that the Braves will probably take that first one, and I see in the NL at least it coming down to the Cardinals and either the Giants, Dodgers, or Diamondbacks. Kind of depends. We'll make our predictions for the West next week, obviously. But
yes.
anyway, do you want to move on to our predictions? Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, let's go to our predictions.
All right. So I have the Cardinals going 91-71. Like I said, finishing second in this division. Good team, solid team. No, not too much star power. That'll hurt them a little bit. I don't think they're an extraordinary team, but this is a team that every year seems like they get hot at the right time. Last year, their pitching was just stellar at the time of moving into the NLCS, and I thought they were going to take that, but obviously they didn't. So anyway, I like this team. This is a team that I'd look out for in the postseason. I think they'll kind of be on cruise control for most of the regular season, like they always do. And like I said, 91 wins, second place in that division. What about you?
I have the one game better than what they were last year at 89-73. I'm kind of assuming that they get Loesch back though, but I think no matter what, they're gonna hover around that area right there, and definitely if they make the playoffs, they're gonna be another dangerous team like always.
All right, so the next team up is the
Brewers.
Pirates. Pirates,
What?
brah.
Oh yeah. I was looking at this. Oh yeah, okay, I got you. All right, I'll do this one. So,
All right.
the Pirates this offseason, they signed Russell Martin and they signed Jason Grilli, and no, he's not on the Red Sox. Ian.
Shut up.
They traded Joel Hanrahan and Brock Holt for Mark how do you say his name? Melanson. Or is it Melanson. Stolmy
He's hilarious. I love that name.
Stolmy Pimentel and Jerry
Pimentel.
Sands.
I think it's Pimentel.
Something like that. Pimple. And Ivan DeJesus Jr. And they re-signed Jeff Carsons and they signed Francisco Liriano.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this Pirates team, they've been not doing too well over the past 30 years or something like that.
They haven't
had
a winning season since 91, I believe.
Yeah, so what do you think? What do you think about their chances of making the playoffs this year?
This is a team that for the past 2 years has been the type of team that is like a pesty team. They get hot towards the summer. They let Andrew McCutchen carry them throughout most of the time, and I just I don't think it's a very talented group, quite frankly. Past McCutchen in that lineup, you're not really looking at anyone too spectacular. I like Starling Marte. I hope he starts the year with the big league club. I don't think he will. I think he'll probably start out in AAA and maybe be like a late April type of call up or whatever, save an arbitration year or whatever. So, I think he has some star power, but after that, it's Pedro Alvarez and Neil Walker and some solid players, but nothing really to back up McCutchen. Their rotation pitched out of its mind last year. I believe they still have Wandy Rodriguez. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, they still have Wandy Rodriguez. AJ Burnett obviously had a very good year last year. They signed Francisco Liriano, who maybe they're hoping could be their next AJ Burnett and, have an all-star caliber season, because I think Burnett definitely had a case at an all-star bid last year, the way he pitched. So, I think unless their pitching carries them this year, I don't see a very talented lineup. Jason Grilli, solid out of the bullpen last year. Good that they got him. Russell Martin, past his prime type of player. Maybe he can turn it around. But I just don't see a very talented group here. I think they'll probably hover around the 70 to 80 win mark, and I just don't think this team is that good. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year. I don't think they really have a legitimate shot at it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, just like you said, they get really hot in the middle of the summer, then they definitely tail off at the end. AJ Burnett had a great year last year, but he pitched a really, really dismal final 2 months. So, I mean, like you said, this team is not very talented at all. They're still sort of young in some places. This depth chart I'm looking at has Starling Marte actually starting in left field, but I don't think that's true. I think Tabata will start. And, I think Andrew McCutcheon's going to have another great year. I think in July, Andrew McCutcheon was hitting 373 or something like that. So, I mean, he's like a huge all-star. He's going to be really good. He's only like, 28? Something like that.
Who, McCutcheon?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, he's pretty young, though, so.
Yeah, he's still a young guy.
So, I mean, definitely this team has a good future ahead of them with in their minor league. They have Garrett Cole, they have Jameson, Tylon. Those are going to be two studs, honestly. I love those two guys.
Tylon's pitching for Canada, right?
I don't know. I haven't really paid attention much to the World Baseball Classic,
He's pitching
honestly.
for someone. I know that much.
So I mean, this team is not very good right now, but, they always seem to have some type of hot streak, so maybe they'll hover around 81 wins, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, another team with a quiet offseason, really not much to say about them.
Yeah, this whole NL Central had a quiet offseason.
Yeah, I told you this last night. I was like, quiet offseason.
I just wanted to say that.
So should we move on to our predictions?
Yeah, I'll go first to this one. I have Pittsburgh at 78 and 84. Again, I mean, they're sort of hovering around that 81 win mark, but still not going to be turning another winning season. Last year they went 79. So a couple wins back. So, or actually no, one win back. So, all right, your turn.
Yeah, this is a team that I think overachieved for part of last year. They came back to reality in those last few months when they really tailed off. And I have them one game below you at 77 and 85. Not a talented group, I don't think. I'm sure Pirates fans are going to say, oh, they always seem to come together these last few years. It's a good, chemistry. They have that group has a lot of chemistry with each other, and hopefully they can pull something together this year. I think everyone at this point is rooting for the Pirates to have a good season because, obviously it's been a terrible franchise for the past 20 years or so. But like I said, not a talented group. Clint Hurdle, good manager, but I just don't think he's going to be able to get more out of this group than he did last year.
Yep, so it's your turn to talk about the Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh, yeah. All right, so the Milwaukee Brewers this offseason signed left-handed relievers Tom Gorzelani and Mike Gonzalez. They traded Raul Mondesi Jr. for Burke Badenhop, which I think was secretly probably their best move of the offseason, although that's not really saying much. But anyway, they re-signed Alex Gonzalez. They lost Sean Markham, lost Francisco Rodriguez, a.k.a. K-Rod, and lost Cameron Lowe. Once again, quiet offseason fits right in with this NL Central team. Surprisingly enough, I'd say the Cubs had the biggest offseason, which we'll get to in a moment. But, quiet offseason. This is a team that struggled out of the gate last year and kind of picked it up towards the end of the season, a lot like the Phillies, a talented group that had higher expectations than what they accomplished last year. But, when you go down this roster, you see a lot of holes in this team. Their pitching isn't that deep. Their hitting is as well isn't that deep. They have good guys like Lucroy and Braun and, Corey Hart when he's healthy. But after that, there isn't much there, quite frankly. And I just don't see this team doing too much this year. I have them really similar to what the Pirates are doing. I think a team that's going to probably finish a bit ahead of the Pirates. But I don't see them doing too much. Like I said, pitching's not deep, hitting's not deep. A few big names in there like Giovanni Gallardo and Ryan Braun. But after that, it's really a big drop-off.
Yeah, definitely after they lost Prince Fielder, they've been kind of steadily going down. I think they're going to go down a lot more this year. What was their record last year?
I think they won 83.
83.
Yeah.
So I don't see them making that. I mean, yeah, like you said, they had a really surprising run towards the end of the year where they were like a few games out of the wild card, but then they slowly dropped off away as the Cardinals got hot. So Ryan Braun, I hate Ryan Braun because it's pretty clear that he's cheating. And I don't know, he's still somehow playing in the MLB. I don't know how he hasn't been suspended yet. Yes. Definitely one of my least favorite players in my opinion. So, but I mean, whatever. If he's on steroids, he's hitting really well with them. So
if he's on steroids, he's probably in the same boat as about half of baseball. So
pretty much. So I'm sure he can hit like 40 home runs and maybe he can carry this team, but probably not. One of my favorite players of this team is Giovanni Gallardo. I don't know why I love Giovanni Gallardo so much, but
it's his name, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. He's just so nasty.
He's nasty.
I don't know, but yeah, what are some Brewers prospects that we could talk about?
They have that some pitcher I can't remember. It's not Jervis Familia. That's the guy in the Mets, but it's some other guy that I'm thinking of. Other than that, this isn't a very star-studded prospect list. I forgot about Aramis Ramirez though, who quietly hits 300 and hits 30 home runs every year. It's ridiculous how that guy isn't more known. But yeah, I love Aramis Ramirez. I forgot to add him in there to the names of top players in that lineup because somebody's gonna kill me in the comments for not mentioning him. But yeah, this isn't a very loaded farm system. I can't really think of any off the top of my head aside from that pitcher whose name escapes me. They also have Gene Segura, who's a shortstop that they acquired from the Angels last year. He's the big piece in the Zach Greinke deal, but he's not really he doesn't have that like star potential. He's not like a Billy Hamilton or a Manny Machado or anything like that. So,
are you thinking of Tyler Thornburg?
no, it's something that's similar to like
I
Familia.
don't know. He's Thornburg's rated number 1 for them. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know any Brewers prospects either. So, yeah, I guess they're just like the White Sox. So, wow, these are going really quick. I guess we're gonna go into our predictions already.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this NL Central is gonna be short because there just weren't many offseason moves.
Yeah, so I'll go first with this one. I have the Milwaukee Brewers at 80 and 82. I mean, a few wins back from what they were last year. So, I mean, this team is just not very good overall either, just like the Pirates.
Yeah, I have this team similar. We're pretty level on a lot of these predictions last year. I have this team going right what they did last year at 83 and 79, finishing third place in this division. Not a very talented. They have some talent, but they're just not very deep. I think they pretty much played up to their talent level last season. I think they'll pretty much do the same thing this year. With Corey Hardness in the first 2 months, that's a big. First 2 months, that's a big blow to them. Sorry, and yeah. So I don't. This team. It's not like they have a guy waiting in the wings in AAA that's going to come up and provide a huge boost for them unless, like in Pedro Siriaco comes out of nowhere again or something like that. But anyway, yeah, really not much to say about this team. Should we move on to the last team of the group?
Yeah, and it's the last for a reason.
Yeah, well, this team had the biggest offseason, surprisingly, out of all these teams, I would say. The Chicago Cubs, I'll talk about them. So they overpaid Edwin Jackson. They signed him for 4 years, $52 million. I think they definitely overpaid him. But that's debatable. He had a solid season last year. They re-signed Ian Stewart. They signed Scott Feldman, a solid guy who can either come out of the bullpen or start. I think he'll probably start for this team in the rotation. They signed I'm not even going to try and pronounce this. It's like Kiyoshi Fuakawa, who I saw like a YouTube video of this guy. And he has like this rising fastball or something. I think he's supposed to be a relief pitcher for this team this year. Maybe he'll be a bright spot. They kind of swung and missed on Kosuke Fukudome a few years back, but I like this Japanese guy. I wish I could pronounce his name, but yeah, he's a really cool like rising fastball. Maybe it's like gyro ball 2.0. I don't know. They signed Scott Baker. He's a solid starting pitcher. Add some depth to that rotation, which is good. They signed Nate Scherholtz. They signed Carlos Villanueva. They signed Scott Hairston, and they released Brian LaHair. And I thought I'd just throw this in there in the Google Doc because it's something that, by the time this podcast goes up on YouTube, they could do. They're pretty much actively shopping Alfonso Soriano in his ridiculous 8-year, $136 million contract. But pretty big offseason. They signed a lot of kind of BC level type of guys like Feldman and Baker. They added a little bit of depth to that rotation with those guys. It seems like they're going to try and keep Starlin Castro until either Javier Baez gets ready or until Castro kind of gets towards that free agency part of his, I don't know what the word would be. They signed Edwin Jackson, pretty much the only big name to be signed out of any team in this NL Central. Coming off a good year for the Nationals, solid. I think they definitely overpaid him, but, it is what it is.
Wasn't Brian LaHair having an awesome season last year?
He was an all-star last year for the first half, and then he just really tailed off towards the second half. And I don't think anyone signed him yet. I could be wrong on that, but he's also 30 years old. So.
Oh. Yeah, I'll talk about this team myself though. The Chicago Cubs, which is my World Series pick. I think definitely that Edwin Jackson move really helps them out because if you look at their rotation, they have a good 1, 2, 3. First 3 starters with Samardzija, Garza, and then Jackson, which that's not a really bad top 3 as well.
Yeah, and if you throw Baker and Feldman 4 and 5, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad. So, yeah, you got the all-star Starlin Castro, who's one of the one of the funnest players to watch, I guess, in the MLB. He's playing, and Shearild's finally got a starting spot after he's been shopped around for the past few years.
Yeah.
He's finally started, but I love Anthony Rizzo. I think he's just a monster. So this team has a lot of top prospects as well. If you look at, like you said, Javier Baez or whatever, and then you got Albert Almora, Brett Jackson, Aradis Vizcaino, and Jorge Soler. They have a lot of hitting prospects.
Yeah, well, I'll touch on that quickly. Obviously Theo Epstein took over for them as GM, the beginning of last year, and as much as a Red Sox fan as I hated Theo Epstein towards the end of his Boston lifetime after signing terrible guys and with huge contracts like Crawford and Lackey. Who?
Crawford.
Yeah, but the one thing they always said about Epstein was he knows his prospects, and I think they said the first move he made when he became Cubs GM was he traded for Rizzo, because obviously Rizzo was a guy who was in Boston, went to San Diego in the Adrian Gonzalez trade, and he was a top prospect in Boston, and once Epstein took over in Chicago, the first thing he did was go after Rizzo because he knew how good this kid was. And if you look at the Red Sox base rosters, in those 2 World Series championships, a lot of those guys were homegrown players, especially in that '07 team when key players were Ellsbury and Pedroia and, Buchholz and Lester. Buchholz was kind of a rookie at that point, but a lot of guys who had come up through the system and had, become, I'm sorry, I'm kind of not articulating myself very clearly here, but they come up through the farm system and they'd become more than what a lot of people expected them to be. So I think a thing with Epstein at GM is that he knows his prospects, and I think that he's done a very good job acquiring talent. He signed Jorge Soler, he acquired Anthony Rizzo, he has guys like Jackson, Baez, and Vizcaino. So it's a very star potential studded farm system, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, yeah, this team's not going to be winning the World Series, unfortunately. I know I picked that, but I mean, definitely. This team has a decent future so far. And, I guess they're just going to look to continue doing that. I mean, maybe they can trade Samardzija or maybe Garza or something like that during the season and get some more prospects. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they'll try to deal Garza again.
So, yeah, I mean, this team doesn't really have much on its major league roster. I think they're also trying to trade Carlos Marmol. So.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
Yeah. So, let's go to our predictions. I'll go first with this one. I have the Cubs at 95 and 75. Just kidding. I have the Cubs at 70 and 92. I'm going to be finishing last in this division like they usually do. So,
yep,
not much to it.
I have the Cubs going 66 and 96. However, I should probably lower that because well, I'll keep it at 66 and 96. They won 61 games last year, and I'm trying to think how many times they probably beat the Astros in that stretch. But anyway, it's not a very good team, obviously. I don't think there's any denying that. Bottom feeder of this division, going to finish last. But there's definitely a bright future ahead of them. I think Brett Jackson came up at the end of last year. He seems like he's potentially ready to join the big league club at some point this year. Soler's still maybe a year or two away. Rizzo's obviously came up last year. He was very good. Well, he wasn't that good, but he showed his potential. And solid rotation. I think this is a team that will do better than they did last year. Like I said, 66 wins, and not much else to say. So I think it's time to wrap this up, unless you have anything else you want to say.
I just want to say the Reds are going to roll over this division.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anyone that's going to... You can make an argument that the Cardinals are going to contest with them, but I just don't see the Cardinals getting significantly better than they were last year. And, they were an 88-win team last year, so I don't think they're going to contest with, what was a 97-win team last year in the Cincinnati Reds.
97 or 98, something like that.
97.
Yeah.
All
right. That's going to do it for NL Central. Next week, we have the NL West. This is going to be one of my favorite divisions to talk about.
Yeah, that'll be a really fun one, guys.
So we're going to see you guys next week for Straight Outta Boston, a.k.a. the King of Boston, a.k.a. Ian. I'm Ryan, a.k.a. Scope and Shot, signing out.
Later, guys.